I would take some water and a cookie, sure. Okay, we should be ready to go.
Right. Can you hear me? Am I
Yes.
coming through? Okay. I'm going to start the meeting by reading the usual timeless words. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general laws, chapter 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Wilmington Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Members of the public who would like to participate in the meeting via Zoom can do so by clicking on the printed link. Members of the public who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may also do so via the telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and enter meeting ID 852-3301-3899. Then press pound and press pound again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment. By following the steps previously noted, then press *9 on their telephone keypad. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. In the event that despite our best efforts, we're not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. So let's do a quick roll call. Vinny?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
Laura?
Here.
Ron? Ron's muted. You're muted, Ron?
Apparently I was. Yes. That better?
Yep, thanks. Alex?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Myself, Don Pearson, here. So let's get started. The first item on the agenda is an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for 71 and 73 Marion Street.
Hi, Kristen Costa here with LA Associates, assisting Craig Newhouse. His video is gone. I'm not sure why. Craig, can you hear us? No. Lovely. We're in separate locations, so I'm not sure why he's not there. I know we did want to speak. All right, he's not be able to, he can't seem to make it work. He just texted me, so apologies for that. He was on.
Okay.
And anyway, so yes, we filed for an abbreviated notice for resource area delineation for a project over on Marion Street. We were recently told that, you know, they weren't, that the town department wasn't able to confirm the BVW line. And that possibly that was due to needing to engage a peer review. So we were, I'll be honest, we were surprised to hear that in the past. That's never been the case. There was always an conservation agent. So we're a little put back by that, to be quite honest. You know, the time it'll take, the more the expense. Oh, there's Craig. Craig, can you hear us? Craig? No. Anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. And I know Valerie had communicated with us that need and why. If that is how it has to go, we have some requests in that regard, and would like an explanation. But I see Valerie, maybe we're going to chime in here. Val, or?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
my dog's acting up, but we will go out to take a look at the line. We still have some snow cover. I think it's finally getting to a point where we can go out and take a look, but we had visited the site with the applicant a little while back, maybe in January, to look at the site generally, not to review the wetland line, but there are areas there that I noticed that, you know, not being a wetland scientist and, you know, Cameron not being a wetland scientist, we wouldn't feel like we would have the expertise to say that this is the line. Typically, where we have delineations, we hire a peer reviewer to take a look at the line to confirm it. That's what we've been doing for the past few ANRADs. We did that for 6 Tobin and for Middlesex and Jefferson. So that's what we would recommend doing here is hiring a peer reviewer to take a look at the line. It's a really commonplace procedure and practice in a lot of towns. So that would be what we suggest.
I don't know that we have much input on that. I'm curious, not that it matters, why the town neglected to or decided to no longer employ a wetland scientist. I believe prior to this, at least all the other ones we've done, and it's been years because we were involved in a big project, so we hadn't filed anything in quite a while, which is why we're surprised to hear that there isn't one on staff now. But if obviously, I don't think we have much input on the need or not, but it's, you know, if this is the way it needs to go, the first question we would have is, could part of the filing fee that we pay for be used to, you know, for that peer review? And if not, why? What is that fee go to if not this kind of thing? Again, this is new to us. We haven't ever had a peer review on an ANRAD in Wilmington since we've been working in town. So I'm just curious if that's an option. To begin with, it's an $2,000 filing to begin with. So we'd like to get a sense of where the funds go and could they be put toward that peer review.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to respond to that? You're on mute.
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. So the fees that are taken in, they are to go to resource conservation and conservation efforts in town. The town can't spend, by law, can't spend public funds on private development. So we're not able to use those fees towards a private development.
Is that a town? I'm just curious, is that a town requirement or is that kind of a state?
It's a state law that we can't use public funds on
It
property.
was suggested by our botanist that other towns have done that, but I don't want to say for sure. It was in conversation with our botanist, Mary Trudeau, she alluded to that could be an option. But I don't want to say for sure, you know, she just gave us the sense that could be a possibility. Could we make a couple of requests? Can the peer review be done, the bid be requested by her, you know, but that they submit by hour versus a flat fee? It was, again, something recommended by our botanist. And could we be involved in reviewing those, however many bids you do end up getting?
Those questions, those questions are really up to the commission on how so the review would be for the commission's benefit, independent review, hired by the commission, paid for by the applicant. So it's up to the commission as to how they want to structure, you know, that type of service and how involved the applicant should be in that process. Typically what happens is we will get quotes from, you know, 3 different wetland scientists.
Mhm.
Typically, they do include, the ones that we usually reach out to usually do include a, a, a kind of a lump fee that they think it's going to take, but they also bill by the hour. So it usually doesn't necessarily match up to what has been projected for the project total. So they'll bill for the time that they've spent. We can specify that when we ask for quotes if the commission would like. And then typically the peer reviewer, so for LEC at the last, for the last peer review, they went out and looked at the line, did the flagging, put out some new flags where they thought things should be moved. They like to do that on their own, at least at first, to have sort of the time and not have a distraction. And then they'll kind of contact the applicant's wetland scientist to go over it and review anything in the field that's necessary. So that's what typically happens.
And what's, if you don't mind, Sharon, is it okay if I ask questions directly? I don't want to do the wrong thing.
It's okay. Do you have many more?
Yeah, follow up with what Valerie just mentioned. What is generally the time frame then now from here moving forward to put bids out?
So luckily we're getting rid of the snow. So the peer reviewers, we had a peer review that sort of was on hold this winter because of the snow cover. And so luckily now they'll be able to get out as the snow is kind of leaving us. And the hope would be that we could have some results by the next meeting.
So you'd be able to put it out to bid and review the bids at the next meeting, or actually pick someone and have them do the work, but before the next meeting? I just want to be clear.
So if the commission is okay with the process, what we've done in the past is we'll put out a request for quotes. We don't have to go out to bid. It's not that formal.
Oh, okay.
We get 3 quotes so that we can get a competitive price.
Mhm.
And we would choose the lowest quote that is qualified. And typically we request quotes from qualified firms and individuals that we've worked with in the past. So we would choose the lowest quote. Staff is able to do that unless the commission would like to review and discuss it. But typically we go with the lowest quote and get them under contract to do the work as soon as possible. In this case, that could, in theory, that could happen before the next meeting. Their review of the line and the results of that review back to the commission.
Okay.
Before the next meeting.
Last question, I promise. We did not include in the filing at the time, riverfront of I think it's Millbrook over there, Valerie. But given that, what's happening now and we are, losing snow, which is great, do you feel that we could possibly modify the application to include that, especially since we're going to be engaging another wetland scientist with trying to, versus have to do this again? We waited, again, not realizing what the new process was, and figured we could pick it up, later with an NOI or something else. But since it is a resource area and again, you're engaging, an additional scientist, is that something we could kind of add to the list or add to their work order or whatever, at this point? Would that be fair to ask?
You'd probably need to amend your filing so that that information would also go to DEP.
Okay, yep.
But if you amend your filing, it wasn't advertised, but I guess I'd have to look into that, whether you can just amend your filing and add something to it when it wasn't legally noticed for that. I'd have to find out.
Okay.
Valerie, is it also an issue that the applicant scientist hasn't provided riverfront or bordering land bordering, land subject to flooding?
Yeah, we'd need to have that delineation from their wetland scientists to be able to review it, to have our peer reviewer review it. So need to be provided the riverfront delineation, the mean high water delineation, so that it could be reviewed.
Okay, I'm pretty certain we could get that from her in short order, but we can, if it's a possibility procedurally, which, you know, then I think we can make that happen, but I guess I'll need the direction from you, Val, on that. On the possibility to modify it all, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'll have to look into it. I know that there have been modifications to filings before, but I don't know if it gone to the extent of adding a new resource area to an ANRAD. I'm not sure. So I'd want to just make sure that that's, I guess, really, I guess, if you have resources and can kind of look into whether that's also the appropriate thing to do, that would be good too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. We will do so. I think that's probably it, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
all my,
yeah, we're looking then to continue the meeting until
Edie.
The next meeting is
7th.
yes, April 7th.
Okay. And now are we continuing a meeting?
I had a
Not a-
question
not a
on the
hearing.
wetlands line. And I don't know if, yeah, I just had a question on it and I don't know if you want to address it now or if we wait until next month.
Please, go ahead.
Let me just look at the map. So there's a wetland line, I think it goes out to like flags like 35, 36, 37. And it's near the existing dwelling on lot 73. And it just kind of terminates without continuing. And since that lot is one of the ones we're looking at development, I'd like to see that line continue and just show like where it is on that lot.
okay. I'm not as familiar as Craig, and of course he's having technical difficulties, but my understanding with the reason it ends there is because that's there's a house on that lot.
Okay.
A part of the lot will be part of our development, but not anywhere near where that last flag is. But again,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense, but
Yeah.
I would want if like whatever peer reviewer or have your person just make sure that any proposed work like won't be in that, because it's just how I'm looking at it. It's like that wetlands, if the line continued, it could curve back towards the work area or further away. And it's unclear that it ends right there.
Right.
So I'd like to just see it continue a little bit further so we can have an idea of, you know, where it's going.
Okay, I'm making a note of that to review
Okay.
that with our wetland scientist. Thank you. Okay. Anything else?
I think not.
Okay.
So shall we, let me have a motion then to continue the discussion on 71 and 73 Marion Street until April 7th.
So move.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just interrupt for 1 second. Is the commission agreeable to, or would you like to have a peer review done on the delineation? Maybe I could have a confirmation on that process and an authorization to go out for quotes for that. Or would you like to, I guess, a question for the applicant too. Do you want to put that on hold while you're figuring out if you're adding, you know, riverfront back into the delineation or the
I think either way, we'd like the BVW nailed down. If we need to if we can't incorporate the riverfront at this point, we'll deal with it separately, but we would like to get the filing that's in you know, processed and move forward if that's agreeable.
Okay, let me get a sense of the commission then. The question is, do we support the peer review of the applicant's submission? Vinny?
Can I ask the question, what specifically, what is the peer review flaw? You know, can we have a little bit more of an explanation?
Yeah, sure. So the peer reviewer would go out and look at the.
No, what I'm asking, what is questionable here?
What is questionable? So there are a lot of, it's a very low-lying area.
Okay,
And so for us to determine, you know, whether it's going to take looking at soils and it's going to look more than just vegetation because there's a lot of low-lying areas.
okay, I got it because I understand now.
Okay, so
This is so small, I can't see numbers on here.
so do you support the peer review? Vinny?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Tom?
Yes, I think peer review is fine.
You, Laura?
Yes, I support the peer review.
Thank you. Ron?
Peer review is fine. We're going to hold off on that till we know whether or not they're reviewing riverfront area or not.
What I heard was for certain they would like the BVW confirmed. And I don't know whether you were planning to modify the submission and get your wetland scientist to do riverfront and land subject to flooding, but you certainly wanted the BVW confirmed.
That's
Is that
true. Yeah,
correct, Kristen?
that's correct. Yes.
Okay. Good. So does that help, Ron?
It does, except it seems that we might end up doing a peer review now, then get riverfront added, and then look for another peer review. Unless you want peer review to review riverfront area, which hasn't been determined yet.
No, I don't think we can do that. And I think the applicant understands that it's that there's reason to sort of amend the filing if they want to include riverfront and land subject to flooding
Okay.
and have it reviewed.
They're okay with the risk of perhaps needing a second review, fine.
Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to interrupt with a question. For the bid process, Valerie, can we just include as an alternative for the peer reviewer and say, you know, if, you know, potentially adding the riverfront area so that if that does go through, then that can be engaged on that single bid without having to rebid the whole process?
Yeah, we can do that. We can have that as a separate task that could either be incorporated or not.
And that's and the BLSF, right?
That I don't know if they're
It's
on including or not.
in the letter, you said that you were seeking the delineation of the land subject to flooding at this time.
You know, I'm not sure. I would need to check with our wetland scientist. I believe she wrote that cover letter.
Yeah. Which
She's
I-
not here only because we knew that we wouldn't be discussing details.
Right.
As far as the, you know, if it was going to the peer review, she didn't feel the need to be at this
Yeah.
meeting. So I didn't know we would be getting specific questions.
Yeah,
So I
her
apologize.
letter says riverfront area and bordering land subject to flooding resource areas require additional information. So you may want to include both in the quote then.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Mike, how do you feel?
Okay.
Alex?
Yep, I'm okay with the peer review.
Yeah, same here. Me too. Yes, that is to say. Um, So back to the motion to continue the discussion until April 7th meeting. Could I have that motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Laura.
Second.
Vinnie seconded the motion. How do you vote, Vinnie?
Okay,
Tom?
Yes,
Laura?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
So next up, we have a public hearing. It's a request to amend order of conditions for Brentwood Ave right-of-way.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Paul Looney, Town Engineer, here to request an amendment for the order conditions for drainage improvements over in Brentwood Ave. If you recall, the commission issued an order of conditions back in December for this project, and I can share my screen if it's okay.
Sure.
Let's see. Can you all see the aerial photograph?
Yes.
Okay, so this was what was presented to the board. It was in yellow is the existing drain system. It discharges roadway runoff in the backyard to number 30 and 34 Brentwood Ave. And we had proposed to reroute that down Brentwood Ave and discharge into the same wetland system that it eventually goes to now, just alleviating the flooding concerns for 30 and 34 Brentwood. Subsequent to the commission's approval, DEP appealed the project, citing two concerns. They wanted more information on how we're meeting this stormwater policy, and they also wanted us to better quantify the temporary impacts to the resource area that is at the inlet. If you recall, right along Holt Street here, there's what's now being called an intermittent stream. It's a resource area that drains into the drain system and kind of commingles there with roadway runoff and discharges off to this wetland. So can you see now the plan view? Or do you, yeah, okay. So this is the revised plan based on addressing DEP's comments. First and foremost, as far as stormwater, we added what's called a filter berm. It's really just a stone berm to allow water to filter through, but trap some of the sediment that typically collect on and get washed off roadway surfaces. So we included that at the discharge point. We met with DEP and our wetland consultant, Mike Seecamp from Seecamp Environmental, to review the resource area on the, I guess it would be the north side there at the inlet side. And at that point, Mr. Seecamp and Pam Merrill concurred that it actually wasn't a BVW area, that it was an intermittent stream that was created from surface stormwater runoff from the area. We noted in this orange area here, just sediment from, there's a lot of different things going on. I think residents, they may dispose some yard waste in these low-lying areas. Also sediment from probably the roadway, and Holt Street here is a gravel road too. So we saw about we quantified that and located it, and DEP wanted us to add a note that was to be removed. That sediment was to be removed by hand when we come in and do the project. So we, yeah, I think we showed this to DEP. They agreed to rescind their appeal so long as we amend the order with these new, with this new plan set.
Thank you.
No problem. Happy to answer any questions. Should the commission have any?
Sure. Valerie, anything you'd like to say before we turn it over to the commissioners?
No, we're satisfied with the changes, and we prepared a draft that incorporates the new plan set to address the comments from DEP.
Thanks. Vinny, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Tom?
No questions.
Laura?
No questions. I'm okay with the DEP.
Ron?
I'm fine with it.
Mike?
All set.
Alex?
Yep.
I just have one question, Paul. At the outlet, it looks like the outlet is taking a chunk out of the private road. Is that true?
I'm going to share my screen here so we can. Yeah, no, the Woodside Ave runs along this, oh, I'm sorry, this, we've got the right-of-way lines shown here, not the roadway lines, the edge of pavement lines. This hatched out area is actually a huge pile of yard waste and it's kind of scattered boulders. So part of our original proposal, which we're not changing, is to remove all that yard waste and then realign the boulders right along the edge of pavement for Woodside Ave to create kind of a deter some of that activity, but also create sort of a little bit of a barrier there between the roadway and the wetland area.
Okay. So the labeling for Woodside Ave is below Woodside Ave itself then in the diagram?
Yeah, so that would indicate the right, it's part of the right of way. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions from the public?
If anyone does have a question or a comment, raise your hand. I don't see any comments or questions.
Okay. So could I have a meeting, a motion to approve the amended order of conditions for Brentwood Ave right of way, please?
So moved.
And
Thank you, Laura.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do you want to add to that to close the hearing?
Okay, and to close the hearing. Again, thank you, Laura. Vinny, are you going to second? Okay, to the vote then. Vinny? How do you vote, Vinny?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have a continued public hearing for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for 6 Tobin Drive. And it's my understanding that the applicant wants to continue till, is it April, the April 7th meeting, Valerie?
Yes, please.
Okay. So could I have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Ron.
And
Second, Vinny, thank you.
okay.
And you're okay on the vote.
I'm okay.
Tom, how do you vote, Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thanks. Next up is a continued public hearing for a notice of intent for Deming Way. And Valerie, I think we just have the order of conditions to discuss, or were there other outstanding?
No, well, you'll see in the packet, there was a letter from GCG Associates discussing the, I think last time it came up, the idea of using something obvious there. So that was submitted to talk about that possibility. And then we didn't have any other outstanding items, so we did prepare a draft and sent it to the applicant for review.
Okay. If I remember correctly, it was my question on the permeable paving, and I recognize the points made in the letter, so I'm okay with that. I guess I need to ask if there's any comments from the public before we close the meeting.
So far, I don't see any raised hands.
Okay, enough time? So could I have a motion to close the public hearing for the notice of intent for Deming Way, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Laura. And a second?
Second,
Thank you, Vinny. How do you vote, Vinny?
yes, okay,
Tom,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Now has the applicant seen the order of conditions as well?
Yes, I have, and we reviewed them, and it's acceptable. We have no
Okay.
comments.
Do you want to walk us through any particular parts of it, Valerie, or?
I don't think there were any parts of it that were out of the ordinary, that deviated from standard conditions. I don't think there's anything special to note. I can go through it, but I believe it's all standard conditions because they incorporated all of the changes into the plan.
Yeah, okay. So at this point, could I have a motion to issue the order of conditions for Deming Way?
So moved.
Thank you, Laura. Second?
second,
Second, thank you, Vinny. How do you vote, Vinny?
okay,
And Tom,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission members.
yep. Good night now.
Good night.
Okay, next we have a continued public hearing for a notice of intent for Shady Lane Drive.
Mr. Chairman again, and members of the commission, Paul Looney, town engineer, here representing the town for notice of intent for a sidewalk extension on Shady Lane Drive, along with a culvert replacement. We submitted this project about a year ago, and since then we received comments from DEP regarding the culvert crossings specifically, and how that they wanted more detail on how we were meeting the stream crossing standards for that crossing. We are still working through those comments, but we're really close to the finish line. And we met with DEP a couple weeks ago. The town's conservation agent, Cameron Lynch, was there. It was a Zoom meeting along with the Director of Planning and Conservation, Valerie Gingrich. We feel like we are really close to buttoning this up finally. And I thought it would be helpful to just give the commission, since it's been so long, just steal a few moments of your time to just review the scope of work for the project now. And we're not looking for any action tonight. We're asking for another continuance. But so that, next month, you'd have time to digest the information and it's not just all put on your laps at once. So having said that, if I can share my screen again. Okay, so this is an aerial of Shady Lane Drive. The sidewalk extension project this is phase 2 of a 3-phase project. We started at Lawrence Street and kind of headed easterly here to this area marked out in red. The second phase is extending the sidewalk from Birchwood to Whitfield Terrace. And that'll be hopefully this summer. And then next summer, we'll look to do the third and final phase, which is a sidewalk from Whitfield Terrace to Middlesex Ave. And effectively what this will do is create one continuous sidewalk from Route 62 all the way to Glen Road using Shady Lane Drive and Lawrence Street. In our initial investigation, we noticed that, or walkthrough, we noticed that there was a double barrel 12-inch CMP culvert that was in a state of complete disrepair, and it's located here. So we included that as a replacement in the notice of intent we filed. And I'm going to show you the original presentation plan that we presented to the commission back in, I think it was April or May of last year. I show the proposed sidewalk here in purple. Green is the 100-foot offset from BVW that we had delineated. And in blue here is the culvert replacement. We had originally looked to replace it just in kind, thinking that it was just BVW on either side. The wetland scientists that we had originally out there did not identify the resource area as an intermittent stream. So we just kind of went with that. DEP, they subsequently made their comments. Surprisingly, they haven't been out to the site yet. But having said that, it's not something we're looking to argue. I think I said at the last meeting a year ago, I'm not by any means an expert or qualified to make any determination like that. But my eyes told me that there's like remnants of a channel on the kind of south side here, but it's like right in the vicinity of the culvert opening. There's more of a defined channel on the downstream end, which is the north side. That's a tributary to Lover's Brook. Knowing the physical constraints out there, just the elevation of Shady Lane Drive, it's country drainage out here. So this is a really low-lying area of Shady Lane Drive. We only had like a foot of cover over the 12-inch CMP pipes. So that limits like what you can physically put or install for a replacement. And we also have about 12 or so homes that run along Pinewood Ave, which is on the downstream side, and in their backyard is in the 500-year floodplain. So we had to be careful on what type of section we were putting in to make sure that we weren't then allowing more water to flow through and create adverse impacts to those downstream areas. So it's essentially like a balancing act, I guess, in that case. We have spent our time over the last year. I've gone out to the site numerous times throughout the year to just get a better feel for how much flow or any flow is going through that section. I still haven't seen it yet. I'm hopeful over the next week or so, with this being probably the best time of year to look at something like that, things become a little clearer. We have a meeting set up with Mike Seacamp next Wednesday at, tentatively right now, it's at 11 a.m. It's going to be a 50-degree day. Hoping at that point we can get a better fix on kind of what exactly this resource area is on the south side, on the up gradient side of the culvert. So where we're at now, I evaluated every possible culvert shape there is for this crossing. What we ended up with as a good match is a concrete arch pipe culvert to replace the double barrel 12-inch CMP. I looked at a box, I looked at a 3-sided box, I looked at a span, and for one reason or another, the span just wouldn't work with it can't raise the road in that location. The box initially was a cover issue, but actually, as it turned out, I found a smaller section. It turned into a hydraulic issue, just that I was allowing like 3 times the amount of discharge through that culvert section than what exists today. So I found this arch pipe concrete section. We would be looking to embed that 6 to 8 inches in the natural substrate of the resource area. And it's pretty close to a spot on match for hydraulic capacity when compared to the 2 12-inch pipes. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions. Again, not looking to waste your time this evening. I just thought it'd be helpful to give you an update where it's been like a year, and try to answer any questions you have, and request continuance for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Tom, do you have any questions?
No, no questions here. Looks good. More sidewalks.
Laura?
No questions.
Ron?
No questions.
How about you, Mike?
All set.
Alex?
Nope.
Okay, I'm fine too. Are there any raised hands?
No raised hands.
Okay. So may I have a motion then to continue the hearing for the NOI for Shady Lane Drive till the April 7th meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Laura. Second?
Second.
Vinny, thank you. Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, Paul. Next on the agenda is a continued public hearing for a notice of intent for 687 Main Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John McKenna representing U-Haul on 687 Main Street. This is a continued public hearing. This hearing is an ongoing matter with regards to pavement of the area behind U-Haul at 687. There was a proposed notice of intent that was denied in an enforcement order that was issued. Since that time, we've met with the planning board. We met with conservation, I believe, in December, and met with planning board the last meeting. We had 2 very productive meetings with Valerie, most recently with the town engineer, Paul Alunai. I have with me this evening Steve Dresser, our engineer, and he has, based upon input from the town engineer, revisions to the plan that have been submitted. We've received comments from the town. So I'm going to let Steve go ahead and explain what the proposal is now and how we plan on addressing these areas. If you remember, Mr. Chairman, the intent was to show this pavement had been done. My clients went to the Public Works and asked if they needed a permit to do paving. They said only if you're in the street, but not realizing that there's resource area here. And they paved it without authority. And your point was, well, what would have happened if they did seek the appropriate permits? What would have been the condition then? And we were looking for a more robust plan. So I'm gonna let Steve present the plan now, Mr. Chairman, if I may, and also get the input from Valerie, and I see Paul's still on, so get Paul's input and see if we can get this moving forward. Steve?
Thank you, John. If I could be allowed to share my screen.
Mr. Chairman, is that appropriate for him to share his screen?
Right there. Is everyone in?
Let's go ahead, Steve.
Okay. I think everybody's pretty familiar with the project. So if you do have further questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But I'll start by bringing you kind of up to speed on the changes that have been made. As John mentioned, we had a very productive meeting with staff, and we've made several changes to the plan. Most significantly, we've expanded the buffer zone on this southeasterly side where the perennial stream is and the larger wetland system is. We've gone from 15 to 25 feet, and we've also extended it quite a bit down the side toward the front of Main Street there. We have eliminated the infiltration system in the back, and this is due to, there's actually a Superfund site, which is specifically the Olin chemical site. It contributes some of the groundwater pollution to this area here. In fact, the wells that were here creating the groundwater protection district were eliminated, I believe, in 2003. And there's also what they call an AUL up in this area, which also is kind of a soil polluted area, and they are not allowed to disturb this area. And part of the stormwater management regulations call for just a maximum feasibility compliance. So they're cognizant of putting unclean groundwater unclean runoff into the groundwater through that. So we have eliminated what was an infiltration system back here. In lieu of that, we are creating a kind of a dry well infiltration system for the building, which is considered clean runoff, and we'll just empty that. So we will get some groundwater recharge to make up for the additional pavement back here, but it's not going to be from the paved area. It's going to be from the roof. Also, by eliminating that infiltration system, we're able to revert back to a constructed wetland in the back of this, which was the preferred type of stormwater management, both by my firm as well as the town engineer, Paul Aloni. Internal islands were added to the vehicle storage area, as well as some openings were put in here at the suggestion of the deputy fire chief to make sure for the movement of emergency vehicles. So we're able to do that, as well as create some green space back here. The trailers that were on the site are going to be removed, just to let you know that. We have received comments at the end of last week and the beginning of this week from conservation staff, as well as the town engineer. We do not see any issue with them. We're going to increase the amount of plantings in the buffer zone areas, test hole where the infiltration system in, a few other things I think that are kind of minor in detail, and just making sure that they're on the plan. And we'll continue to work with staff to make sure that those get done and reviewed and to your satisfaction. So that's it. If there are any questions, myself or Attorney McKenna will be glad to answer them. Nope. Any questions?
We just wait for the chairman. I think he may still be muted. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
that's right.
Yeah.
Valerie, do you have anything to add?
We provided, as Steve said, we provided comments, engineering provided comments. I can go over those if you'd like, but they are also included in your packet if you want to read through them. Either way, fine with me.
Yeah, is it your understanding then that you and the applicant will take some time in March to ready the project then for closing in April? That will continue it till April? Or with the comments, ones that could be conditioned?
Not quite that could be conditioned. We also need, they'll have to apply for their special permit for groundwater before you can issue the order.
Okay,
So we can't quite, want to see some plan changes and then, and just get proof of that being filed for.
okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what she had said there, Mr. Chairman. Could you repeat that, Valerie?
Sure. One of the first comment on the letter, on the comment letter, is that the commission can't act on this without you first filing for all of your local permits. So that groundwater protection district special permit to have over 15% use, that'll need to be applied for. It doesn't need to be granted necessarily, but it at least has to be applied for the state regs.
Yes, I can apply for that right away. I'll request the abutters list and get that application filed within the next week or so.
And then, Mr. Chairman, I think there's some other things that we've asked to be shown on the plan. So I think they're going to be working on some plan changes, and we'll review those when they come in, and hopefully we'll be to the point where we can have a draft for you.
Great, thanks. Any questions from commissioners? Vinny?
How are we going to prevent vehicles from parking in the no parking areas?
I mean, it'll be striped and you'll have a order that says that they're not allowed to do that, as well as a special permit from the planning board. So they also have to go in front of the planning board. So, you know, that will be something, I guess, that'll need to be regulated, you know, but U-Haul will tell you they won't do it. It will be writing that they won't do it.
This is an area where only U-Haul vehicles will be parked back here. So we have control over this area. It's not like somebody from the public would come in and unknowingly park back there. This is where they store the vehicles that are to be rented out, and they shunt them in those areas that Steve had outlined. So it's going to be an area that, you know, they won't park in that area, that they'll have the areas in between where they park it, and it's controlled by U-Haul.
So those large spaces are essentially like queuing of the vehicles that get rented. So that the person who's renting it will, you know, park out front, come into the building, and then staff goes out and drives, you know, the front one out to them. They rent that, and as the day goes on, they move everything forward. So they're comfortable that there's enough room back there with what they're allowed to park in to store all their vehicles. So there's no real reason to go beyond what the queuing is.
But U-Haul doesn't have any intention to parking any of their vehicles. Yeah.
Correct. And they're the only ones who have access to that. There's no public access, as Attorney McKenna said.
And U-Haul understands the reason for the no parking in that area due to fire safety concerns, due to the storage of the vehicles, and also I believe the proximity to the wetlands. So U-Haul's aware of the conditions set.
And I think the comment from the deputy chief was actually based on what they do at the Woburn U-Haul. So they're actually, you know, familiar with the reason for doing it, and they actively do not parking that at the Woburn U-Haul.
I'm all set.
Thanks, Vinny. Tom?
No questions.
Laura?
No questions.
Ron?
I'd like to perhaps just some signage, directing the public to not park behind, I'd be happy with that minor thing. I know U-Haul does quite a business, particularly in the end of the summer, early fall, and the public's going to be sorely tempted to park wherever it can, including behind the building there.
I don't think they'd have a problem with that. I can't even tell you that they don't have it now. It's possible, but seems reasonable to me.
Great.
Anything else, Ron?
Nope, that's it. I'm fine with it.
Thanks, Mike.
All set.
Alex?
No comment.
I'm okay as well. So are there any raised hands, Valerie?
Let me just run through the participants here. I do not see any raised hands.
I was counting to 10 under my breath. So could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for 687 Main Street till the April 7th meeting of the commission, please?
So moved.
Vinny
Second.
made the motion. Laura seconded the motion. How do you vote, Vinny?
Okay. Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valerie, and thank you, Paul, for the input on those meetings to advance this case. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Sure.
See you next month.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next on the agenda is a request for a certificate of compliance for 2 Nunn Road.
So I went out and conducted a site visit the other week, and everything looked good, and the certificate is ready to issue.
Cool. All right. So could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 2 Nunn Road?
So moved.
Laura made the motion. Second from, was that you, Mike?
I think so.
Okay. How do you vote, Vinny?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The next item on the agenda is a request for a certificate of compliance for 10 Fern Banks Road.
So I also conducted a site visit last week, and the certificate is ready to issue.
Okay. Could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance
So
for
moved.
10 Furbanks Road? We have a so move from Laura and a second from
Second.
Vinny. How do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Tom,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Valerie? Oh,
Val-
sorry, I
Voting.
saw you there. You were the next face in line. An honorary vote, right? Ron,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
myself, yes. Very good. Is there anything else, or do we go to meeting minutes now? I saw a letter from Butters Row. Was that just an information?
Yes, the 25% design for the Butters Road Bridge has been completed by MassDOT, and we're getting the electronic file. If you'd like to take a look, we can send you a link. That was just letting you know that they've completed the 25% design. And if you have any questions or would like to see the plans, you can get in touch with us.
Okay. And what happens subsequently? They'll come before the commission at some point down the road?
That's right.
Yeah. in a little while or in a couple of months, or how do these things work?
I think it'll be a little while. The project is, I believe, programmed for 2024. So, and they'll want to work on the 75% design before filing with the commission. So I don't know that it'll be months anytime soon, but something to look at if you're interested, but it will come to the commission.
Okay. I also noticed that we received the appeal of the order for Jefferson.
Yes, we included that appeal in your packet. We didn't put it on the agenda, but we did include it in your packet, just so you have a copy of it.
Great, thanks.
And
So-
if I could make one more announcement, just a reminder, if you haven't done your conflict of interest paperwork, please do it and get it back to us or the town clerk's office.
Okay,
Thank you.
so on to the minutes for the February 3rd meeting. Has everyone had a chance to read them? Kathy, on page 7, the third paragraph.
One second, page 7, third paragraph.
Page 7, third paragraph, the one that starts with Suzanne Sullivan asked.
Yeah.
Down near the bottom of the paragraph, there's a sentence. She also commented that if there was ice over the channel, then, I think that should be then there was ice in the area.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay. And that's the only thing that I had. Anything from you, Vinny, or was it okay?
No.
Tom? Okay with you, Tom?
Yes, yeah, no, they read fine to me.
Mike?
I wasn't there, Don.
Okay, thank you. Ron?
Fine with it.
Laura?
Yep.
And Alex?
Yes.
Okay. So could I have a vote, could I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes for February 3rd as amended?
So moved.
Thank you, Laura. Second?
Second.
Okay, I got a voice from Ron seconding.
Ron,
How do you vote, Vinny?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes,
Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
yes.
Alex?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So how are we doing? Is that it, in fact?
That is it.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to go finish my evening without you guys.
Have a good one, everyone. All right.
Like, yeah.
Is there a second for the adjournment? Who wants to second Laura's motion for adjournment?
Second.
Second.
All
We're
right.
done.
Who wants to actually adjourn now? How about you, Vinny?
Yes.
Tom?
yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And Alex?
Yes.
Myself, yes. little bit of levity at the end there. Very good. We'll
Thank
see
you all.
next month. Yeah. Good night. Stay
Good
well.
night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.